I don't know anyone that's been following my journey since Thursday when we had the. I thought we had a really nice episode of Leftovers. Actually, and I will say, just to be totally, I guess, let's go from a higher view on all this. Is that the comments on the podcast that we did are terrific, and people showed a lot of appreciation for the honestness of the conversation and kind of the different perspectives that we took. I like one of the top comments was that we both exist in each other's blind spots, which I thought was really kind of a
saw that one.
nice way to look at it.
Yeah.
Different perspectives.
Yeah.
So
Gary V's podcast.
Yeah. So, oh, and by the way, huge hit was turning the chat off on Leftovers, which I'm pretty sure that needs to be a consistent now. That was so important, man. But even without that, it did descend into some pretty nasty stuff. We were talking about it in our group chat. A lot of us have been getting this. AB, you had mentioned it to me. The expectations that people on both sides have on any of us to express ourselves in the exact same way that they expect, or that like silence is. I don't know, but like Hila's getting a ton of fucking hate from Israelis who are like, dude, Hila has a friend who told her because she's not speaking up more, she has the blood of the dead Israelis on her hands.
Jesus, that's psychotic.
It is psychotic.
That's a psychotic thing to say.
You're getting it, Zach?
I've gotten a couple messages, yeah.
AB, you don't want to talk? You don't have to.
No, I'll talk about it. I mean, listen, I've fought for Palestinian rights for a long time. Since I was in college, there was a big wall of flags in the University Center at University of Michigan Dearborn, and they didn't have Palestine on there, and I was the one that fought to get Palestine put on there. Clearly I stand with Palestine, and I feel for the innocent people in Israel as well. But yeah, I'm terrified to comment on it, because if I say something wrong, or even if I'm defending Palestine or whatever side I'm defending, if I don't say it in the correct way, I'm afraid I'm gonna get shit.
There's always
something.
There's always something that you didn't say perfectly.
Yeah.
That will be twisted into the most heinous interpretation of what you could possibly dream to take. And I told Hila, I told Hila, don't say anything, because it doesn't matter what you say. Either side is going to dogpile on you. And for example, Hila posted, did I not link that? The thing that Hila restored? Is that in the doc?
I don't know if I saw it, but I think I could find it.
Yeah,
quite
pull that
quickly.
up. Hila reposted the art of an Israeli artist.
Here's one of them.
So the first one she posted was this. It's Netanyahu with blood on his hands. The caption says something like, the adult in charge or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first post. And then the second post.
Here's the second.
Was this, which depicts a really, horrific scene. I think the art is interesting just from the perspective of almost like a child, of which there was a lot there. And it says, "We do not forgive, we do not forget" in Hebrew, and it's pointing to the picture of Netanyahu, who has blood on his hands in that photo. And so the immediate reaction was people started just going, especially on our subreddit, and just saying like the most heinous things about Hila that she's like, I mean, you can imagine. I don't need to repeat. And so I had to put out this fucking statement being like, this is just a lot of what's been happening. I don't know if you have, do I have that statement that I put out?
I have it. If you'd like me to pull it up, 1 second.
that's
Wait,
the-
this is part
that
2,
was-
right?
Yeah, that's part
Okay,
2.
sorry, let me get
Thank you, R. Kelly. Thank you, AB. Or that's awesome. Anyway,
Has R. Kelly weighed in on this situation at all?
I just said,
Got his
dumb
opinion.
fucks. You should at least fucking understand what it is you're looking at before you call someone like a murderer, a genocidal maniac. I'm just saying, like, before you accuse someone of being a genocidal murderer, you should at least spend 1 second trying to understand what the fuck it actually says. It was here it is. It was literally a post that was expressing from the Israeli perspective rage at the government's failure and blaming this all on the government, Netanyahu, who we all hate, by the way. Said, dear dumb fucks going after Hila for this post. It literally says, we do not forgive and we do not forget, while pointing at Netanyahu. It's really rage at the government. He has blood on his hands. You know. And so I don't know what it is, but there's just a lot of people who were just being really uncharitable to me and Hila. Just nasty, 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 nasty stuff. Which is disappointing because I feel like I'm genuinely trying to keep my mind open and learn and like understand the Palestinian perspective. And I feel like I am doing that. I feel like I am learning more and becoming more empathetic. But I genuinely feel that there's just way too many people that see like Israelis equal evil. All Israelis equal settlers. All Israelis equal settlers. And you know, when you say, anyway, that's whatever. That's a whole different conversation. But there was one tweet I saw, and this isn't the first time I saw it, but I saw someone post it and it was getting lots of likes. And the beautiful irony of this is, so it's a cartoon somebody created who put a lot of fucking effort into making a cartoon of Hila in an IDF uniform with a automatic weapon. And, you know, she's got like that kind of Nazi Jewish propaganda face, and she's just killing kids. She's just mowing down his Palestinian babies. And what's kind of, I don't know, it's definitely not funny. I don't know what it is. You guys tell me. I know that shit was made by Nazis, like literal Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who I saw who were tweeting it this time were leftists.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw Nazis and leftists clapping hands together to say, you know, fuck Israel. We agree on that. Let's clap it up, brother. And that was a weird feeling for me, and I was in a pretty bad shape. And so I've been trying to erase Twitter. I've been trying all weekend. Do you guys know how? And by the way, I can't. Thank you. I can't deactivate my account because it makes my handle open, which is insane. Obviously, that would be insane to let
somebody else grab it.
You know. So that's not an option. So I was trying to figure out ways to just erase all my tweets, all my likes. And it is so fucking hard. Dude, I was trying all weekend. It was really upsetting me because I just needed to get out of there. I did finally figure out a way to, I guess you can download your Twitter data, which you have to wait 24 hours for. And then I bought some software that I could put the Twitter data in. And it seems like just right now, like just right before we started the show, it looks like all my tweets were successfully erased, which is nice. That was driving me crazy. And then the next thing is I just want to erase all my likes, which I guess is there's like 30,000 of them. It's like, God damn.
Delete.
30 fucking. So it's a pretty monumental task, I guess.
Click
So
delete.
once the tweets and likes are gone and it's burned, I'm going to erase the app.
Hell yeah. Let's fucking go,
Say
dude.
bye-bye to all the psychos there.
Welcome back to Threads, baby.
Maybe I'll join Threads. I did say I'm a threadhead. Yeah. The one thing I will say, though, and again, because it's important to look at this from a high up perspective, that while a lot of leftists were very cruel in their assessment of me and Hila, that there was something that took place. There was actually, I guess, in the Arabic or the Muslim community, there was a clip of me talking about, how I was affected seeing some of the things that were coming out of Gaza, and it was getting shared a lot in social media of people saying like, "Oh, here, thanks, AB."
Yeah, I'm getting shit on in Dearborn, but you're a goddamn hero.
That's
Even
fun.
my aunt sent it to me. She's like, he made me cry with this.
Aww.
I was like, that's nice. Just stick to
Yeah,
the
I think
clip.
that's very important to keep in mind, Ethan. Is that and that's why I applaud you deleting Twitter. Get off of that shit because it's just brain poison, and it can.
Rat hole.
It's designed for pylons. It is literally designed for that, and you're not really getting a clear picture of the community. And I think, as evidenced by that, I think a lot of ordinary people, if they heard your position, and as evidenced by this clip that's gone viral in AB's hometown, I think and people understand that your heart's in the right place.
They said American-Israeli content creator Ethan Klein broke down while speaking about Palestinians killed by Israeli airstrikes in Gaza. Klein condemned the Israeli siege of Gaza while co-hosting the Leftovers podcast on Thursday with American-Turkish political commentator Hassan Piker. The comments still have humanity in him, thank God. Proof you can be Jewish and Israeli and have a good heart. Beautiful display of humanity, compassion, and love. This is the only thing to fix a broken world.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
And so I'm glad that happened because it helped me a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, the people on Twitter, it's like these people think they're activists, but they really don't care about. They really don't care about doing anything meaningful because going on Twitter and spreading really nasty propaganda or calling someone like me a fucking apartheid genocidal maniac and all that stuff and retweeting cartoons of Hila murdering.
Little
Yeah.
neo-Nazi cartoons, by the way.
That
Keep pointing
is.
it
I
out.
mean, isn't that something?
No, the irony of that was not lost on me.
Makes you. I don't know. It makes me. But again, the beautiful thing was that this whole AB sent it to me, and then I guess a lot of people were seeing it, and that to me was very nice. That to me was very meaningful, and it. It really did. It says a lot because, like, the reaction that I saw people having to that was really simply a reaction to somebody, an Israeli American, or even somebody on. Because listen, I'm not I'm fully aware that the media in America, especially, and I think in most Western countries right now, are like vastly, vastly on the side of Israel, are like uncritically supportive of Israel.
Here, this is a poll.
And politicians, especially, which is the worst part, who are just like enabling the worst things that Israel is doing.
Saw this on NPR this morning.
So
Just to put the pylon in perspective.
This is important to remember. Publicly supports Israel is the like teal column.
Yes.
So overall, 65% support Israel. Gray is they
Gray
don't
is
care.
unsure,
and then the yellow, which is what number is that?
8%.
They criticize Israel. Now that as a whole is insane. I mean, 8% criticize Israel. That's crazy. I mean, that
we gotta get those numbers up.
So like I want to, bear in mind. Again, I'm trying to look at all this from the high level. Is that at the end of the day, however much you'll hear me trying to speak up for the Israeli perspective and talking about a lot of the propaganda that I see against Israelis and Jews and the kind of radical language that I'm seeing that I think is dangerous, I want to make it very clear that I understand that looking at this poll, the big problem is Israel, okay, and the uncritical support that people have for it. But at the same time, I do think it's important to convey Israelis as complex human beings and not caricatures of that they're all genocidal monsters. Because that's not productive at all. Like, how can you say that you want peace, that you want change, that you're an activist, meaning that you're activating for change. You can't achieve that by looking at the enemy, quote unquote enemy, as one-dimensional people. There's such a huge diversity of people in Israel. And by the way, right now the majority of them fucking hate the government and blame the government. I'll also say that. I mean, everything that's happening now is the direct actions of a extremely conservative, violent, genocidal government that was made by Benjamin Netanyahu out of desperation to hold on to power. He made a coalition with basically Israeli Nazis. I mean, they're like fascists. I mean, that's what they're trying to do. And what's interesting is right before this, there was massive protests in Israel because Netanyahu and his fascist party was trying to basically declaw the judicial system to put any meaningful checks on the executive branch. So they were trying to do a massive power grab, which is definitely a symptom of a fascist government. And there was massive protests in Israel against that, including a huge percentage of IDF members who refused to report to duty. Like 20% or something, who refused to report to duty because of their efforts to declaw the judicial system.
Ben.
Is that for BB? Are we in BB's
that's
walls?
Pretty good. Ben. That is Benjamin Netanyahu.
I'm inside your walls, Ben.
Oh no.
And I've been watching the news heavily. And again, I want to be as supportive as possible of what the Palestinians are going through, while also providing what I think is an important Israeli perspective on things. For example, a 6-year-old kid was murdered in Chicago.
Oh my God, this story is So fucking
by his crazed landlord who hates Muslims and Palestinians. I don't think he's Jewish. He's just a fucking maniac.
yeah.
But regardless, it doesn't really matter. I mean,
Most
but
sane landlord.
that's a result of the kind of crazed coverage you see by politicians in America and most of the media, you know. It's kind of funny, actually. It was posted by, I acknowledge that oh yeah, see it. Oh, dude, I can't, it's so fucking sad. It's so sad, dude. This beautiful child. And so, like, you know, hate crimes are up. By the way, for Jews and Muslims / Palestinians, Arabs, whatever. But this was certainly just the worst thing that came out of this that I saw over the weekend. I mean, what the fuck? Look at this beautiful child. He's. How could you do that?
Genuinely don't know. Can't even imagine.
And then, like, you know, if you of all the Israelis that I fucking criticize and hate the most, besides the government, are the Western settlers, who are literally monsters. Over the weekend, settlers killed like 60 people in the West Bank's families.
Jesus.
Do you have that story?
I don't. I saw something about it. It's just been such a deluge of horrifying news that it's hard to even keep up. Let's see.
By the way, these settlers are armed and enabled by the government. I saw a video of a dude, a crazed settler. He was having an argument with a Palestinian guy. He had a rifle in his hand, a military-grade rifle, and Israeli settlers take advantage of Gaza chaos to attack Palestinians in West Bank. Settlers and soldiers have killed 51 Palestinians in West Bank since Saturday. At least 2 Palestinian villages have been entirely depopulated.
Whew. God.
I saw a video of I mean, he's having an argument with a Palestinian guy, and obviously you can't tell what they're talking about because it's filmed from really far away. But he has a military-grade rifle. The Palestinian guy's standing like this. The settler charges towards him, like really aggressively. The Palestinian guy's got his hands up. He's not moving because he's not like hands up like surrendering. He's just trying to show that he's not threatening him physically. Like, I'm not trying to
I want to
fight you. And the settler, he pushes him and then like slowly and deliberately lifts his rifle and shoots him in the stomach. And there's an IDF soldier standing right behind him that just like waves him back to safety. Because behind him, like, 20 feet was a group of his friends, I'm assuming. And, you see this a lot when you see footage of Palestinians, but the way that they swoop in and picked him up and carried him off for medical care is like so routine to them. You can tell they were so fast and efficient at carting off their friend who was shot. And it's, they're really efficient at it because they're doing it all the time. And this guy, I don't think he's been punished. I don't think he's even been investigated because he's doing what he's meant to be doing. Also in Gaza, the Israeli government has been telling everybody to evacuate Gaza City, which is a city of like
1.1 million?
1.1 million. Again, it's worth mentioning that 50% of them are under 18. 40% of them are under 14. They're being ordered to mass evacuate out of Gaza City because Israel's planning a ground invasion to try to root out Hamas. And
which I think is starting today.
I'm
Right before we went live, I was seeing that it looks like they're staging to go in now.
I have to say I'm quite surprised that it took this long, because they said they were going to go in after 24 hours, and I think that the international community, Biden, has been putting a lot of pressure on them to ease the fuck up.
I hope so, at least behind the scenes. Publicly,
he is.
Yeah.
I think that the other. I mean, there's quote unquote good news, but that they opened back up the means for water, electricity, fuel, and medical aid. So that is coming back into Gaza.
From
finally.
the Egyptian border, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, because the Egyptians closed their border too, so I'm not even sure where it's coming. I don't know the logistics.
No, I think
it might be coming from boats. I don't know.
No.
It's like AIDS?
No. My understanding is the relief columns are coming in from the Rafah crossing, it's called, down in.
Okay, so anyway, they're letting it back in, and Israel, which controls the utilities, the water, electricity,
Yeah, that's still
and
off.
gas, which was turned off for like a week.
I think since the day after the attack, right? Or within 2 days?
Yeah, was restored.
Oh, I hadn't seen that.
That it was restored. Yeah, I heard last night that they opened back up the flow
Okay, maybe I haven't seen that.
of utilities. But again, you think about, I look at this one child and it breaks my heart. This kid who was murdered by this psychotic maniac.
The one in Chicago?
Yeah. But then you think 40% of the 2 million people that live in Gaza are under 14. That's like, 800,000 kids. And Israel cut off food from entering for like a week. Food. People were starving. I saw people were rationing off their food to their kids while the parents didn't eat anything. Like they literally didn't have food. It was like a frenzy trying to get a pita bread from like the bakery. How fucking crazy is that? It makes no sense. Like what? And again, like, I don't even see the defense. Like, how do they even defend that? Like, how does that benefit the military to cut off food? Because here's the thing. Hamas has stockpiles of equipment. They are prepared for a ground invasion. They have a vast network of tunnels, and they're stocked up on that shit. So the people who are definitely not starving is Hamas.
The Hamas.
They're the only people not starving. So I don't understand even the military justification for doing that. And water.
It does just seem like cruelty. I'm not seeing anything about them. I think that they still have all the utilities cut off.
Hold on. Water was definitely turned back on.
Let's see, water turned.
Yeah, I'm seeing this one article. Israel restores water supply to southern Gaza to encourage evacuation of north.
Yeah, they did that.
Okay.
I think even a couple days ago.
Got it. I mean, yeah.
That's kind of important.
Water's pretty important.
Yeah. So, having said all that, because I want to emphasize again that I want to look at this all from the highest vantage point possible, and while fully acknowledging
different perspectives.
Thank you, Gary. That's Gary V approves of mine. Listen, guys, I'm just doing what Gary V told me to do.
Yeah.
He's my
Now, put that phone down. Different perspectives.
Oh, and you're getting rid of Twitter. You listen. Oh, did I just breathe?
perspectives.
You've been silenced.
I've been silenced.
Oh, your screen is frozen, Dan.
Yeah, I see that.
Is that okay? And so, while fully acknowledging the plight of Palestinians under the government of Israel, under the violence that's being enacted. Oh yeah, the other thing I didn't say is that a caravan was apparently bombed while they were going south, like the army told them to do. 70 people died. Again, 40% of those are kids. Whenever you hear people dying, 40% are kids. It's terrifying.
It really is.
It's horrible.
You see what's going on at the White House today?
What?
I actually just saw it right before we went live. Let me pull it up. Basically, there's a huge demonstration by an American Jewish group outside the White House calling for ceasefire.
Oh, I've seen, yeah, that's nice. I've seen, I mean, there's
pretty
a lot
big
of
crowd,
Jews out
too.
there. Look, there's a lot of Jews out there.
Jews.
In particular, American Jews, or just non-Israeli Jews, I guess I should say.
There are a lot of Israeli Jews as well.
Sure. I mean, naturally, here in the States, it's going to be American Jews primarily.
Oh, there's a lot of crazy ass Israel supporters here in America too. Like, damn. I mean, Hamas was saying like the media coverage in Israel is way more nuanced even than our conservative coverage here.
Right. Yeah, no. And I've continued to see that. It's shocking how
Which
these-
again is something that people need to bear in mind when they look at Israelis as one-dimensional, just people that hate Arabs and want to kill them, is that the Israeli media has long been very critical. Even when I lived there, these newspapers like Haaretz and there's the J Post, which I don't think is super liberal, but the Haaretz in particular has always been extremely critical of what Israel's doing when the war crimes are happening. And Haaretz is one of the most popular papers in Israel. So I'm just telling you guys that we need to view these people all as complex, three-dimensional beings. So again, the reason I say all that, not the reason, but now that I've said all that about what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank, frankly, or just Palestinians in general, because I want people to bear in mind that they are the victims, okay? They are the ones being they're the ones that are being, put in a ghetto and being rounded up and fucked with and murdered. Okay, so fully acknowledging that. But then here's where people lose their mind is that when I want to talk about Israelis as human beings, they don't want to fucking hear it. There was some stuff I saw that was just so disturbing over the weekend. Let me see. This one. Now, this clip is, I think she is a Hassan mod. I think, just like Frogan. And so Hassan is not associated with them. This, again, I don't say that to put blame on him, but these are a lot of the people that are watching Leftovers episodes. And so anyway, here's her take, and then I'll respond to it.
The conscription is mandatory, but you can go to jail for like a couple months if you refuse to join. There have been lots of people who have protested their government by doing so. And I get that that's a big sacrifice to ask of the Israeli people that live there, but I'm just personally not a fan of I had to do it, I was forced to do it. I feel like you start getting really close to like Nuremberg trial type shit there.
So she's trying to compare anyone drafted into the IDF mandatory conscription to being a fucking Nazi. Now, if you need an update on the Nuremberg trials, and I'm not gonna be super mean, okay? I'm gonna be charitable to her, but I just want to talk about this point, okay? The Nuremberg trials was held by the Allies after World War II ended to charge prominent Nazis with war crimes. It was like 20 people. They were admirals, SS officers, people that had an active role in exterminating Jewish people. 20 of them. So comparing someone who's conscripted to the IDF as a fucking Nazi is pretty rich. And let me tell you what, IDF is not like Western armies as we understand it. The IDF is ingrained into the culture, the fabric of society there. Because it's mandatory, because it's conscription, because it's so large, the IDF has so many different roles in society. There's so many different jobs that you can have in the IDF. Also, like, people want to say this about Hila. I mean, she served in the IDF, like, at this point, God, it must have been like 15, 20 years ago. So, like, it's different if you're being drafted right now and you're like, I don't want to go. I mean, okay, I get that. But, like, you can't look at anyone who's in the IDF and say Nuremberg trial. That's fucked up.
I mean, okay, I'm going to try and be charitable to her position here and push back a little bit. I think that's probably a poor analogy to draw because of the historical association with Nazis and extermination of Jews. I think what she's trying to say is that the excuse of just following orders has been found to not be sufficient to people.
Dude,
but that's in reference to specific
20 people were tried in the Nuremberg, approximately. I don't know the exact number.
Right.
Following orders, I mean, it's just not a fair characterization to say. The vast majority of people in the IDF are not on the front line killing people. The majority of people, it's a small percent of the IDF that's even on the front line taking on combat, I would say. And so this notion that every IDF person is just following orders, it dehumanizes them.
Yeah, I mean,
it dehumanizes them. And I'll say this: it makes it sound like they're all valid targets of terrorism. It's this one attitude that I have a problem with, is saying like every Israeli is a settler. Because if that's the case, settler babies,
right?
Then everybody's fair game to war and terror and violence. That's what this does. If you're in the IDF, which is basically 99% of all Israelis, and I'll let you know, although I don't think this girl cares, but just to explain, you're 18 when you join the IDF. You're not a woke. You're not mentally developed. Like, you know.
That's more along the lines of my thinking, that you have, I mean, this systematic problem of mass conscription and universal conscription. I mean, the military does. I mean, even if you're not on the front lines, like you said, or if somebody's like a secretary like Hila, you can argue that you're still a part of the machine and contributing to these acts. However, I mean, this is a society that you are indoctrinated into from a very young age, and I think a lot of us, I think everyone would like to think that they would have that attitude, that they're a 17-year-old kid and that they would have the moral character to say no and to go to jail and to be ostracized by their peers as a result. And I would like to think that if I was in that position, I would do that. But how can I really say that? And how can anybody really say that without living like that?
Listen, if you don't join the military in Israel, you're basically a social outcast. You can't even find work afterward.
Right. And there's an immense amount,
you're disowned. You're shunned by your family,
which
your
is
friends,
terrible,
everything.
and is a problem, and speaks to kind of the sickness that's going on in that society. But I don't know. To put that on a bunch of teenagers that likely don't know anybody. I don't know.
They're 18 years old. They don't have fucking any experience in the world, okay? their only experience growing up has been a lot of propaganda that, I myself heard when I was living there. And so I'm sorry, but, and by the way, the IDF is not a monolith. There's such a huge swath of types of different people because, like I said, it's not like how we understand the military in America or other Western countries. I don't know. It's everybody. Everybody. It's part. And by the way, besides, what's happening with Palestinians, there are legitimate security issues and legitimate jobs that the army does have to do, not just militarily, for the country. So people have this civic duty, the civic expectation to undergo this. And so to compare them all like Nuremberg trials is just, again, it's the dehumanization. We're not achieving anything when we look at them all like Nazi war criminals. Okay? How the fuck are you ever going to achieve any kind of understanding or peace as a leftist activist if you're going to just dismiss all Israelis, 99% of them who've been in the IDF, as Nuremberg Nazis, one-dimensional, hateful cowards even. They're all cowards. And I love how she's like, yeah, you can go to jail for a couple months. I don't think she has any idea what she's talking about. What's the punishment for not going to the army? I know you go to jail. I don't know for how long. It's a lot. I think it's longer than months.
I thought it was a couple. I think it's a couple years, but I'll look at
Yeah, it's a couple years. It's not a good time. And like, dude, at least be honest. Don't be like, oh yeah, you go there for a couple of weeks. It's no big deal.
Let's see.
It's not a good.
Refusal to serve in the IDF.
Ben.
Yeah.
90 days? I mean, that is just 3 months.
90 days?
I'm trying to find a better source here.
Did you ask ChatGPT?
I did not ask ChatGPT.
Let me ask ChatGPT.
I was looking for a direct source. Here's an Reader's article about it.
GP's up.
All right, let's see what ChatGPT says. Let's see. Those who dodge the draft without exemption can face consequences, criminal penalties. Evasion of military service is a criminal offense under Israeli law. Those who are found guilty can face prison. The duration can vary based on individual circumstances, and it's at the discretion of a military court. Civil penalties, in addition to potential jail time, individuals who evade the draft might also encounter civil penalties. They might be denied certain government benefits or job opportunities. Yeah. Social stigma. This is an illegal penalty, but it's worth noting that serving in the IDF is a significant rite of passage in Israeli society. Those who evade
Wait, did you say that you can lose social, like you can lose like welfare and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, you become like you become a total outcast.
Service guarantees citizenship, right? From Starship Troopers.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally that.
I don't know about like removing. Yeah, they make your life hell. They do. They make your life hell. Limitation on travel. Oh wait, here. The social stigma. It's worth noting that the IDF is a significant rite of passage in Israeli society. The thing is, kids don't go off to college like they do here. Like go off to college and you're on your own. In Israel, it's the army. It is such
crazy.
a part of the culture there. When you finish high school, you go to the army, and that's your coming of age
freshman
experience.
year.
Yeah, exactly. That's how they do that.
Crazy.
Those who evade service might face social stigma or be viewed less favorable by certain segments of the population. Limitations on travel. Draft dodgers might find their ability to travel outside of Israel is limited, as they can be arrested upon their return. There are exemptions. This part is the fucking worst. The religious folks don't have to serve. Is that crazy? Crazy. Like they're forcing them to fight for these pieces of shit that won't even fight themselves. Medical or psychological examinations, stuff like that, can get you exempted.
So if you're an Orthodox Hasidic Jew, you don't have to go into the IDF.
There was some
There are religious exceptions. Yeah.
There was a really weird rule because the religious Orthodox in Israel, although it's not a huge percent of the population, it is a powerful one because everybody's always trying to get them involved in their coalition. And of course, they're super conservative, and they're part of Netanyahu's coalition. But they carved out at one point this fucking idea that their service to the state is they're just studying the Bible, and that's just as important. So they get an exemption so they can study the Torah. Crazy, right? So again, the purpose of me talking about this clip and all this is not, I'm not trying to malign her. I understand where she's coming from, right? It's easy to, you know what? I totally understand where she's coming from. It's easy to look at it and be like, you know, just don't join the IDF. But I want to explain how much more complicated it is than that, lest leftists look at all Israelis as fair game in the war of extermination. And let me ask you this. I mean, listen, a lot of the leftists that I've been listening to and hearing about, that I've talked about, they say that every Israeli is a occupier and they deserve anything that happens to them in the revolution. And so if you look at every Israeli as an occupier, what exactly is your plan for working this out in the end? So we have this idea of achieving peace, right? So I ask those of you who proudly say all Israelis are occupiers and valid targets for the freedom fighters of Hamas, I ask this very simple question. What happens to Israel when, I guess, they want like all the surrounding Arab countries to group up and invade? I don't know. I think that's their hope. What happens to all of these, quote, settlers, the 5-6 million Israelis who are all fair game? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we can't use the genocide happening in Gaza to justify potentially another one. We have to be morally consistent. We have to be against violence of civilians and the freedom of people everywhere. Even if you fucking hate them, a lot of these people hate Israel and Israelis. You are too quick to become the monster that you're condemning. And I'm not saying that she's doing this. I'm just saying I see the path that they're walking and where it's leading to. That was just one example. I didn't like that, but you know, again, no hate to her. I'm just trying to explain my perspective on this. The next thing, this one was really, really fucked up, man. And the reason I show this one is just the amount of engagement and skepticism that it got. Here is, I don't even know if I can show this. Can you do one where it's blurred out? Or actually, I don't know. It's important to show for the context, though.
You talking about this one?
There's no body. There's just blood in it.
YouTube will. I mean, if you're concerned about that, I'm pretty sure YouTube will.
they demonetize. Probably.
Yeah. You can just describe it.
So this was a photo release. Oh, thank you, AB. Oh, AB with the fucking.
Maybe for the win.
So here's the photo. Okay, it's cropped because the bottom depicts a really bloody scene of dried blood, and then next to it is a coloring book, also covered in blood, except there's splatters of pink on the paper. And so the fine people of Twitter, who are now all forensic blood splatter experts, have all agreed that this photo is fake. The blood on the book is pink. Blood when it's wet is red, and it turns into a darker color when it dries. Okay, thank you to the forensic expert, Linlin. Basic facts. So why is it pink? This tweet had like 100,000 likes, like 10 million views. And if you look into this, it's all over the place of people co-signing this, liking it. So what's happening here? They're looking at the scene of a child who was butchered by Hamas, and they're saying that it's fake. They're saying not only is it fake, but Israel is lying to us about people dying. Like there is right before our eyes, on a much, much smaller scale, this historical revisionism, you know, it's in the same vein as Holocaust denialism. We know kids died. We know lots of kids died. So what does it, first of all, what does it even matter if it is fake? We know the kids died. That being said, it's definitely not fake. I like that these people think that the Israeli government is, at one hand, too dumb to properly stage a death scene because of a little pink splatter, and at the same time, they're too smart and cunning because we own the world, or maybe that's not what they. Maybe that's not a fair. That's not a fair characterization. But imagine like that you're having a whole debate over the scene of where like a beautiful innocent child died, and you're all are sitting there talking about how it didn't happen. You're sure it didn't happen. It's fake. I mean, I'm sorry. Once again, that's just.
Most of our chat is saying that it's fake.
It's not fake, you guys. I'm sorry to tell you. Why would you say it's fake? I mean, that's a horrible thing to say.
I don't know.
Especially, so you...
This is the first I'm hearing about any of this.
So let me ask you this. You think it's fake because there's a little pink splatter on the calendar. So is that enough? So this hunch that you have is enough to go and publicly call this site where a little girl was murdered that it never happened, that it was fake?
I see that there was a community tweet on that tweet.
It was a
community note.
Yeah, it's being brigaded by everybody. I saw posts of people being like, "Get in here and upvote this to say it's fake." Like it's a total bullshit.
Right, the note's not there anymore.
Yeah, because it got erased because it was bullshit. It said the note was something absurd like, "Oh yeah, blood doesn't turn pink when it goes on," like some dumb shit.
As readers added context, they thought people might want to know deoxygenated blood has a shade of dark red, so it is staging. The blood is not pink.
That's a community note. That's like just someone's opinion. Again, I'm not a fucking scientist, and I don't know why there's little splashes of pink, but I guarantee you, in the complexity, in the fucking bodily fluids being torn and bloodied all over the place, I'm not going to get caught up in the fact that there's a little splash of pink on her coloring book and sit there and talk and publicly say that this little girl who was killed by terrorists was faked. You better have a lot more evidence to say that shit. And again, why are we even discussing this? We know the kids died. This is straight up straight up horrific propaganda. Bad. It's just horrible. And again, remember the context that I'm doing this all in the beginning, keeping in mind the plight of the Palestinians and the horrible shit that happens, that's happening every minute there. My goal in doing this is to maintain a level of humanity for all civilians. Because there's going to be a blowback from all this shit eventually, one way or another, you know what I mean? And I think people are going to have no problem just killing Israelis. And I think we saw enough people that are comfortable with what Hamas did, that I think there's going to be a lot of people who are just pretty okay with killing Israeli civilians. And I'm sorry if that makes me, somehow insensitive, that I don't think civilians should die on either side. And I don't think it's appropriate to be guessing on the murder scene of a little beautiful innocent girl who was murdered by a terrorist, why she didn't actually die and why this is fake. Like, just think about it. Just think about what it means to say this is fake. You're saying to the vast majority of people engaging with this that this did not happen. And saying this did not happen leads to the Israelis are lying about everything. This leads to, I've heard people saying, the vast majority of the Hamas fighters, they were there peacefully. It was only a few that were bad. And again, it's like, this is historic revisionism. It's comparable to Holocaust denial. I mean, obviously on a way less scale, but it comes from the same place. Saying like, they're lying. They lie about everything. I genuinely don't think this photo is fake. And if you do think it's fake because of a community note that just had someone's opinion, and I saw screenshots, I saw lots of people being like, everybody get in here and upvote this community note, just brigading it. It was literally just someone's opinion. It's not a fact. It's not an article. And again, I can't get over the fact, like, if the Israeli government is trying to stage a death scene, why the fuck would they put pink on the calendar? You think, like, how can you can't think of them as that dumb, and yet, you just can't. It's stupid. I don't know. Am I crazy? This photo is not fake.
I don't know. I mean, I'm only seeing this for the first time. I'm just seeing that a lot of people think it's fake. I think it's kind of moot. I mean, I think we all agree that innocent children died.
That's my point too. Is that
I think it is important in wartime to keep a skeptical mind about things that are coming out from official sources from both sides. So I can understand the skepticism, but I do agree that the full-chested this
people are
is
saying
fake.
turn the chat off, Dan. Turn the chat off.
Okay.
Turn it off. We don't need people sharing their opinion on this in chat.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.
The point is that it did fucking happen.
Yeah, I mean,
and all this does is convince more people that somehow this didn't happen.
Right. Somebody sent, before we just turned off the chat, sent a super chat that said it reminds them of when right-wingers claim false flag on school shootings.
Yeah.
Which it does have kind of a similar energy. Different context, obviously. Very different context.
Dude,
but
every single piece of media I've seen about what happened to the civilians who were killed by Hamas is flooded by comments in the chat of saying it's fake, it looks fake, this didn't happen. Every time.
Yeah. But
go on TikTok, go on Twitter, go anywhere you read, go into the comment section. I'm just telling you that this is a dangerous sentiment to be putting forward. This is dangerous propaganda that you're interacting with here. What, Dan?
Oh, nothing.
That's my point on this. It happened. So what's the point of even being like, this is staged? Again, full acknowledgement of the like 1,000+ kids that have died senselessly, murderously, tragically in Gaza and the horrific conditions they have. I talked about that. Ow, fuck, what was that? Scratched my eye. Yeah, I'm okay. I've talked about that at length, okay? Because I don't want people to think that I'm not caring about that also. But I do think it matters to see propaganda for what it is. And that all humans, all civilians, are deserving of not being killed. Because imagine you're wrong, though. This is where the scene of where a little girl lost her life. And then you're just playing guesswork. You're playing games about if it's real or if it's fake. The girl died. That's real. Why would they need to fake? She died. She was murdered by terrorists. I don't think that's just a fact, right? Seems a little silly. Okay, so there's that. And then, let's see here. God damn it, I closed my doc. I'm almost done here, guys. For those of you who are exhausted with this. This was another story I wanted to share because there was a moment during our conversation when I said a lot of the people who were killed by Hamas were peace activists. And I knew that because I saw them on the TV. I saw their families talking about it. I read about them. And Hassan met me with a little bit of skepticism on that. And I think it's important to, again, in an act of humanizing Israeli citizens, bring you this story about Bilha and Yakovi were peace activists and the parents of a prominent activist, Moaz Enon. They were killed on Saturday. The couple were killed in their farming collective, which lies just north of Gaza. So, this idea that, you know,
aren't the people that live on kibbutz generally?
They're communists, bro.
They're like hippie.
Yes, they're
type of
communes.
people, right? Yeah.
They're literally communes. It's fucking a communist organization.
Right. So I guess shouldn't be surprising that a lot of them.
I've seen a lot of people saying too, like anyone that's like either they're talking about the rave, anyone who's partying outside or living outside of a concentration camp deserves it. I need to express, first of all, how small Israel is. It is not a huge country. So it's not like there's a huge amount of diversity of places to live. A lot of Israel is just barren desert, too. So people are not going there to revel in the suffering of Gazans, as proof of this article here. That's it. And then
did you see that video? It was like a 19-year-old girl who was on one of the kibbutz, and she posted a video ranting about how disgusted she is with the government and how it's all their fault and everything.
Yeah.
That was like...
Pull it up.
That video, like, crushed me.
But this is important for people to see because I'm just afraid that there's too many people out there who are becoming radicalized to think that Israelis are all genocidal maniacs. And I feel that it's important for me to, and I keep saying this, emphasize, here's the size of Israel, just to give you an idea. And by the way, like 60% of it is barren desert. So.
I also saw in Berlin, they were marking the doors of Jewish people's homes.
Yeah, that's not a good, that's not a good sign.
So that's, yeah.
That's what Moses did on Passover, though.
True. Did he do it? He did oh yeah, he drew swastikas on their door.
No, not swastikas. That's not what I'm saying.
He marked it in blood, right?
Yeah.
Send me that video. Did you find one with
I'm looking for. Did
English
you find it?
subtitles?
Yeah. Does this have
Here,
subtitles?
this is a girl.
Yeah, this is the video I was talking about.
So this is an Israeli girl. 4 days after Hamas attacked.
This one was
There's a 19-year-old girl who survived the horrific massacre in the kibbutz Be'eri. I think that was the really horrific one where they were reporting that like 40 babies got killed. That was the one that really, 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 really got fucked.
Yeah.
This is her message to fellow Israelis and to the world. Again, this is the type of people that you'll find on these kibbutz.
אני בת 19, מקיבוץ בארי.
I know that there's audio listeners. Should I guess maybe I'll read.
Maybe turn it down and you can just read along with what she's saying to translate.
Yeah.
Zach, turn
All
it
right. I'm 19 years old from kibbutz Be'eri. Well, here, I want some audio so I can hear her the inflection in her voice.
Turn it up a little bit.
הכי גרוע,
The worst thing,
חוץ
aside from hearing all of the
מלשמוע את
names
כל
of the
השמות של המתים
deceased,
והנעדרים,
the missing and unaccounted
והשבויים,
for, and those taken captive,
הדבר הכי גרוע
the worst
במיידי
thing
לא היה לשכב
at that moment
בחושך
was not
בממ"ד,
lying in the dark in a bomb
זה לא היה לשמוע
shelter,
את היריות,
wasn't
זה לא
hearing the
היה אפילו
gunfire, wasn't even the
בזמן
real-time
אמיתי
messages
לקבל
received
התראות
from my fellow
מחברי
kibbutz
קיבוץ
members.
שלי, שמות שהכרתי
People
מאז
I've known
שאני
since
מכירה את
I've
עצמי,
known myself,
מבקשים לעזרה
begging
ואף אחד
for
לא.
help, and no one came.
הדבר הכי גרוע
The worst
בשבילי,
thing for me,
חוץ מהמתים והשבויים
aside from the
והחטופים,
deceased, those held captive, and those who were abducted,
זה הרגע שבו
was the
יצאתי
moment
מהבית
that we
כשפינו
exited
אותנו
our
והיה
home.
חושך והייתי
Oh
יחפה.
shit. Hold on. Was the moment that we
זה הרגע
moment that we exited our home when we were
שבו
evacuated.
יצאתי מהבית כשפינו אותנו והיה חושך
It was dark,
והייתי
I
יחפה
was
בדרך
barefoot,
של
and I stepped
הזכוכית,
on shattered glass.
וראיתי את הפנים
And I
של
saw the
האנשים
faces of my
מהשכונה שלי.
neighbors,
פחד.
filled with fear, absolute terror.
וראיתי פנים
I saw the faces of those who I've known for as long as I care to remember,
כמו שאף
in a
פעם
way
לא
that I
ראיתי
had never
דמעות.
seen them before in tears.
אנשים שגדלתי איתם,
People whom I grew up with filled with fear.
פחד. וזה להסתובב פה.
And wandering around here, I only just got here to the Dead Sea. Oh yeah, so a lot of them got evacuated to like hotels or vacant hotels up north in the Dead Sea, just for context.
זה להסתובב פה במקום
Wandering
הזה
around
ולראות
here,
את
seeing the
הפנים של
faces of my
חברי
fellow
הקיבוץ
kibbutz
שלי
members attempting to
להצליח
get
לקום
up in the
בבוקר,
morning to
להחזיק
hang
מעמד,
in there, to
לחייך
smile
מדי
once in
פעם.
a while,
כל אחד והדרך שלו.
each in their own way.
וזה לאסוף את עצמי
The hardest
כל
thing is to pick myself up
בוקר.
every morning.
וזה לא הרבה בקרים, אבל
And it
כל
hasn't been a
בוקר
lot of
מחליטה
mornings, but each one
בצורה
has been an
מאוד מאוד
extremely
קשה
difficult challenge,
לאסוף את עצמי.
just to pick myself up.
מה שקרה לנו היה
What happened to us was
מזעזע,
appalling.
אבל יש משהו שמאוד חשוב
But
לי
there's something
להגיד.
that is very important for me to say.
מה שקרה לנו לא היה
What happened to
חדש,
us was nothing new.
פשוט גרוע יותר.
It was only worse.
מפקירים אותנו
We've been
שנים.
neglected, abandoned for years,
אל
years.
תגידו כיפת ברזל,
Do
זה
not point
פלסטר.
at the Iron Dome
אל
as a
תגידו חיילים,
solution.
זה
Do not point at the soldiers. That is a band-aid.
פלסטר. זה פלסטר, בן אדם גוסס, אתם מביאים לו
Someone is
פלסטר.
dying and you bring them a
בושה.
band-aid? Shameful,
בושה.
shame.
ושנים אנחנו מדברים
We've been
על זה.
talking about this for
שנים.
years. For years they've been
מפקירים
neglecting
אותנו.
us.
לכאן זה מגיע.
That is where
זה
this
לא היה
originated
חדש,
from.
רק
This was
גרוע
not
יותר.
new, only worse.
וזה לא הדבר היחיד שהוא לא חדש, אלא רק
And this
גרוע
was
יותר.
not the only thing that was nothing new, only worse in this war.
במלחמה הזאת. ואני מנסה למצוא
I'm
את
trying to
המילים,
find the
שבכנות
words, but
קצת
honestly
קשה
it is
למצוא
quite
אותן עם כל
difficult.
הכעס
With all the anger and grief welling up inside me right now,
והאבל שיש בתוכי כרגע. איך אני
how am I
אמורה
supposed to
לקום
get up in the
בבוקר?
morning?
אזרחי ישראל,
Citizens of Israel,
פוליטיקאים,
politicians, residents of
תושבי
Israel abroad,
ישראל,
I don't care who
בחו"ל,
hears
לא
this.
אכפת לי מי שומע, תקשיבו לי טוב.
Listen to me carefully.
איך אני אמורה לקום
How am I supposed to
בבוקר
get up in the morning
ולדעת
knowing that 4.5 kilometers from kibbutz Be'eri
מקיבוץ בארי, בעזה,
in
יש
Gaza,
אנשים
there are
שזה לא
people for
נגמר
whom this
בשבילם.
event
בשבילי
has
זה
not
נגמר אחרי
ended.
12
For
שעות,
me, it
כי
was
היה
over
לאן
12
להוציא
hours
אותי.
because there was a place to be
אני בים
evacuated to.
המלח.
I'm at the Dead Sea.
מי שמדבר על נקמה,
Those speaking of
תתביישו.
revenge should be ashamed.
יש הרבה כאב,
There's a lot
נכון.
of pain. That is
אני,
true. I
אחרי
myself,
כל מה
after
שעברתי,
everything that I've been through,
כל כך הרבה
keep
כוחות
losing
אני
so much
מאבדת
energy
בכל
every
פעם
time I
שאני
hear the
שומעת
word
את המילה
revenge.
נקמה. מה שאני עברתי,
For people who go
שאנשים
through what
יעברו
I
את זה
went through
ולא יהיה מי
and not
שיוציא
have
אותם.
anyone to extract them, It cannot be. And no, there can be no other band-aids. They ask us all the time, do you think you'll go back to the kibbutz after this to live there? Without added protection, without additional soldiers? Don't offer up soldiers or protection. Talk to me about a political solution. For years, we've been asking for a political solution. I'm 19 years old. I have friends who have fallen on the battlefield as soldiers over the past few days. When they were in the kindergarten, they knew what they wanted to do in the military. Am I raised my own children like this? Shameful, disgraceful. Am I to raise my own children and ask them when they are 5 years old, sweetheart, what do you want to do in the military? How much? How much loss? How much can one endure? We, those of us who survived, are living and walking proof. And believe me, if you are hearing this, that we, it can be a whole lot worse. It can. In my perspective, and this is the most important thing for me to say right now, and it's been this way for years, when we are bombarded with rocket missiles, it goes over our heads, it's out of our control. Not the rocket missiles, they don't go over our heads. The missiles hit just fine, believe me. The decision to launch missiles, that's over my head, out of my control. Bibi, Hamas, I don't care who is launching. What I do know is that Be'er suffered, Na'el Oz suffered, Kar Aza, Sidrot, and Gaza suffer. Believe me, every missile launched with only 4.5 kilometers between Gaza and Be'eri causes the ground to shake with the exact same way in both places. The exact same. That is impossible. Impossible. Now, I know there's so much anger towards Bibi because I feel it. I feel very strongly in the moments I am able to feel anything at all, because as of late, that is not easy. I feel the anger because of how many people, how many must die for him. How many people must die for his ego and his personal interests. I don't know if I already said this, but the missiles, particularly in the latest attack, even before the terrorists infiltrated, I heard more missiles than I had heard all in my 19 years of life, all at once. A lot, a whole lot, and we immediately knew that this was a war. Before the terrorists began everything, we were always the first to know, always the first to hear. We can hear it from where we are. The missiles, the ones that hit us, feel like missiles launched by my own government. Because this is the government that has abandoned me. My entire life, and now we are experiencing the worst of all. And if this isn't the worst of all, only God knows what is in store for us. Now, it is true that Bibi this and Bibi that, and truly I blame 100% for everything. That is true. He chose to have us live in this way. He chose to toss us the Iron Dome at us instead of reaching a political solution. And he chose a lot of other things as well. Our blood is on his hands. But it's not just him. He is the root of much deeper problem, but it is not just him. If my words are heard by anyone, take a good look at yourselves. Look deep inside. Ask yourselves, what are your values? Ask yourselves, in light of everything you see around you, how do your values, the ones you know you hold, fit in with what you see? Ask yourselves that question. Really ask it. Ask yourselves who it is you vote for. Ask yourself what it is that you are demanding. I know what I am demanding. I'm demanding a peace, a just peace. I'm demanding Bedouins in the Negev receive the same support as Kibbutz Yair has. And we too did not receive. Civilians came to our rescue. Civilians. The government was nowhere to be found. And I am filled with gratitude for being at this hotel at the Dead Sea. But in a heartbeat, every person here would give this up to get those held hostage back. By the way, only twice I heard the government barely even acknowledge the mere existence of hostages. They are acting as though they do not exist. They drop bombs knowing that these bombs will cost them their lives too. The return of hostages, peace, fairness, and decency.
הגינות והוגנות. אם אין לכם
If you're not interested in hearing the things I just said, then there is no hope.
אין תקווה. תעצרו טוב טוב,
Take a moment, weigh my words carefully,
אולי
listen.
לחלקכם הם יהיו קשים לשמוע, קשות. קשה לי
Perhaps for
לדבר.
it's hard for me to speak, you see.
אולי לחלקכם המילים
Perhaps for
האלה
some my
יהיו
words
קשות
will be
לשמוע.
difficult to hear.
עם מה שאני עברתי
After what I
בבארי,
went through
אתם
at
חייבים לי
Be'eri,
את זה.
you owe me this much.
אתם חייבים לי את
You
זה.
owe me this.
לא בקטע של אשמה.
Not in the
כולנו
sense of
עוברים
guilt.
הרבה.
We are all dealing with
קחו
a lot.
הפסקות.
Take time, just take a break.
תטפלו בעצמכם, תשמרו
Take
על
care of
עצמכם,
yourselves,
תשמרו על
take care of your
המשפחות.
families.
אבל אתם חייבים
But
לי
you
את
owe me
זה.
this.
תשאלו את עצמכם למי אתם מצביעים.
Ask yourselves,
תשאלו
who it
מה
is you
אתם
vote for.
מבקשים
Ask
ממנו,
yourselves what you
ואל
demand of them.
תתפשרו.
And do not
אם אתם
compromise.
נותנים לתקווה למות,
If you are
אתם
hope,
נותנים
if you let
לתושבי
hope
עזה
die, you are
למות.
letting
שוב.
you're letting the residents die over and
אין
over
לי עוד מה
again.
להגיד.
I have nothing more to say. So, this is a very eloquent 19-year-old kibbutzim who is very in touch with her emotions and obviously a good speaker, but she's far from the only one out there with that same opinion. In fact, I'd feel comfortable assuming that most of the people on that kibbutz probably had similar opinions about stuff. And so, again, when I see people callously describing Israelis as celebrating outside a concentration camp, they're all settlers that deserve to be murdered by Hamas. I think it's important for everybody to bear in mind the cost of civilian death and what it does to, on both sides, to the psyche of the people there, and how it hurts, how much it hurts peace, actual peace. There was a lot of stuff I saw, but a lot of it was too horrible. I couldn't even read it. The stuff people were saying about me and Hila. I don't know.
Well, it's good you're getting off of there. Let him scream into the void.
Again, just to emphasize, 8% of people in America, only 8%, are critical of Israeli government. So I'm not forgetting who's the aggressor and who is the villain in this story. But in the words of Gary Vee, different perspectives.
All comes back to Gary, doesn't it?
Different perspectives.
The great thinker of our time. Fuck the Jordan Peterson heads. Gary Vee is the philosopher
Everybody
of the
look at your phone
21st
right now.
century. Yeah?
Now, put that phone down. Different perspectives.
Oh. Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I just want to reemphasize that you can't generalize about anyone, obviously. I mean, in my own experience, my grandfather in Lebanon was a very educated man. He was a wealthy man. He was like the head of the village. He trained with British knights, well respected. And he lost his home to Israel, him and my dad's family. And he kind of lost his mind after that. And it completely ruined my dad's family. My grandmother fled to America, and my dad and his siblings. And they went through hell after that, and it had an impact that leads all the way to me and my siblings.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other hand of things, I was hired by 2 Israelis, and you guys completely saved our lives. Like, you not only gave us great jobs, but allowed us to achieve our dreams. And yeah, I don't know. I always thought that was a great example of, I can't generalize about anyone.
Thanks for sharing that. The one thing I keep saying that, you know, I just, one takeaway is that we are not the crimes of our government, because if we were, then heaven would be empty. Everybody would be guilty as fuck. We'd all be child killers, probably. I don't. Most governments, Western governments.
And I will say, I think it's worth saying that I have seen a lot of total psychopath, bloodthirsty warmongers in the past week saying it's completely acceptable and good to just bomb the fuck out of Gaza because they voted for Hamas, right?
Which is psycho.
Right. And that
Even
is...
if first of all, the Hamas analogy is, first of all, really bad. But even if it was true, let's still not kill them all.
Right.
The Hamas.
Well, and there hasn't been a vote. They haven't actually voted on anything since 2006, I believe. And so, as you pointed out, that over half the population that are children weren't even alive during that vote. So I don't see how that they can be culpable for that. But that's besides the point. They're not culpable for that. They're not.
No.
And
Hamas is their government. Listen, if you like it or not, they're a terrorist organization. They're also their government. That's the people in charge. You know what I mean? And so, and I've seen so many, I've been watching a lot of footage of what's happening in Gaza. There's reporters there surveying the damage, talking to people. I've heard so many of them saying, like, we don't support Hamas. 99% of us don't support Hamas. We just want freedom. We just want to not be killed. We just want water and food and shit like that. Yeah, but that's, I mean, again, that's important to bear in mind because our politicians, even more than the media, it's kind of interesting. Our politicians are the most bloodthirsty freaks, genocidal maniacs. Like, they refuse to have any nuance. Talk about looking at someone as a one-dimensional human being. I mean, listen, if you want to talk about a group of people being looked at as one-dimensional, it's the Palestinians by people who really have power, like these politicians that are like,
we need to go on a holy war.
Oh God, Lindsey Graham. That motherfucker went on TV and said this is a holy war.
Wow. I mean, same that George Bush said after 9/11. Said we were going on a crusade. There's so much like just disgusting feelings that I felt after 9/11 and the lead up to the Iraq War and everything being brought back by all this. And it's so many people have learned nothing.
Oh, one thing I did want to say, I don't know if I mentioned this, but seeing all the Muslims or Arabs or I don't know, a group of swath of them sharing that clip of me talking about what's happening in Palestine and seeing the seeing how happy and how, how it made them feel, just that very simple expression of empathy really did make me realize that a lot of, Muslims around the world and Arabs are just looking for like the tiniest bit of empathy.
Yeah.
Because like, I didn't give them that much. I'm just one dude who was really sad about kids dying and their fathers having to, carry their bodies. And seeing how that touched people, it puts in perspective just how little, a lot of them are asking for.